Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. It is Monday, April 2nd. Frank Granito alongside Kevin Coleman, and the spring season is officially underway. But Kev, before we dive fully into our coverage of the FCX Spring Sports, there is one more basketball game this year that still matters, my friend.
Unfortunately, I would have loved to see Loyola Chicago get in there. They had their opportunity, but give credit. I am saying I'm giving credit to Michigan. Nice late run there with the final 2 minutes to punch their ticket to the national championship game. But I'm going with the Wildcats tonight. They're in my bracket still as national champions. Unfortunately, they're not playing Virginia. They're playing Michigan. So there's that. But again, go Nova.
Virginia, when did they lose?
They lost their first game.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick
Great
by
pick
you.
by me.
I'm going to be honest, and I'll be probably the first person to publicly say this. I was so sick of Sister Jean.
Oh my God!
I just, you know what?
That is
I
beyond.
know, but think about it. Imagine you're this group of Cinderella kids from an 11 seed out of a non-power conference, and you make it all the way to the Final Four. You got 2 guys there to ask you a question: how was practice today? How do you stop Mo Wagner? Sister Jean has got a room like she's Tom Brady at the Super Bowl.
I know. I get the argument for that sake, but at the same time, the story was there. You know, obviously Sister Jean taking over, great story for her, and just to see the way from that first game, winning at the buzzer against Miami at the buzzer, what a great story Loyola Chicago has been. That's what's so great about this tournament. And you look at the girls' side as well. How about Notre Dame winning at the buzzer again?
That was really cool.
To win the national championship game. That was incredible. Incredible run.
I wasn't going to go there today because I know our director, Mike Suppy, a proud UConn alum, obviously has not had much on the men's side to cheer about, and there's always a lot of pride in that women's program. That's a disappointing loss for the Lady Huskies, but, short of a, let's call it, last-second miracle buzzer beater tonight, the men's Final Four is going to have a lot of trouble living up to how much fun, how good the ladies' Final Four was this year.
And I think if you're the NCAA and you're on the boys' side of men's basketball, you want a close game tonight. And I think you're going to see that. I think you're seeing 2 of arguably the best teams in college basketball. Nova, from start to finish, really has been that dominant team throughout the season. And Michigan has really done a nice job of late. They had that great run during the Big Ten tournament, and they've done a terrific job of
I saw a really cool article on ESPN earlier this weekend. It was talking about you have the best team of the season pitted against the hottest team of the season, Michigan, winners of 14 straight. But, I mean, I was sitting there with a buddy watching the game Saturday night when we started watching that Villanova game. We were just laughing like, Michigan's going to get smoked. You watch what Villanova did to Kansas. Dude, I mean, 18 threes, a record in a Final Four game. They've now hit over 460, a record for a season. They have 5 players who have hit at least 50 threes this season. For college basketball, that's unprecedented. It's really, really I got a cousin who's a Villanova alum. My sister, obviously, at Michigan now. So at the end of the day, some side of the Granito family will have been a winner. But it's, it's been very cool to watch Michigan go on this run. You're right. Villanova's been such a cool team. So a lot of fun there. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of women's college basketball. I think that UConn has built such a dynasty that the sport loses a lot of its lust because it's been just this one program dominating for a long time. But you had 2 overtime games in the semifinals, then a buzzer beater for the national championship. It was a really good weekend for women's basketball there at the college level. So that was it was a lot of fun. It was great for that sport. And, I mean, if you enjoy sports, you don't have to like women's basketball. If you enjoy sports, you loved what you saw out of that tournament there.
You did, and that's what's, again, going back to what I just said, it's a great part about college basketball in the month of March and coming to the end here. It's almost sad in a way that we're going to see college basketball come to an end because it's such an entertaining season, entertaining tournament on the men's and women's side. So it's going to be a fun one tonight. I think you're really going to see a close matchup. I know you just said, looking at the way that Villanova played on Saturday, you think it's going to be a blowout. I really do think Michigan's going to keep this game really close. It's going to come down to the wire. And if Villanova's going to win their 2nd national championship in 3 years. 3 years, excuse me. I think Jay Wright's going to go down as arguably one of the top coaches in the country.
Well, Mike Suppy and I have been talking about this a lot. John Beilein on the other side at his 2nd Final Four in the last 5 years, doing it without any elite recruits on his roster. He is one of the most underrated coaches in all of basketball, arguably in basketball history. When you look at what he's done everywhere he's gone. Never been an assistant coach. He's only been a head coach at high school, D3, and D1 now, so very cool there. Obviously, Kev, I know you didn't want to be here today. You were supposed to be down at Yankee Stadium for opening day. The weather is not great. We're going to have some postponements around Fairfield County as well. Baseball did start up this weekend. Cool to see it back. Quite frankly, what I garnered out of the start of the Yankee season, trade Aaron Judge right now. You're just not getting anything out of him. You're 4 games into the season. If you can't tell what his year is going to be like now, I don't think you can judge baseball players.
Well, I'll tell you what. Looking at what he looked good in center field. I got to tell you what.
That was pretty cool.
Seeing in the first inning, I think a lot of Yankee fans had their eyes peeled on the TV screen because they wanted to see what he looked like in center field. Honestly, I know he played there in college. He looked really comfortable out there. Now
officially tied for the tallest player in MLB history to play center field. Quick thought on Aaron Boone, and then let's get back into the FCX.
I think 4 games in, obviously.
Fire him, right?
No,
give him the Billy Martin.
No. Do not give him the Billy Martin. I think you still gotta go with Aaron Boone. I think 4 games in now, 2 of those losses, obviously he's gonna put on him. He realizes that. I think yesterday losing that way they did. David Robertson coming and giving up the grand slam in the 8th inning. Disappointing, I think, if you're Aaron Boone. But at the same time, I thought they pulled Sonny Gray a little too early yesterday. I would have liked to see him maybe go 1 or 2 more batters. Yep. But at the same time, I would like to see Sonny Gray keep going. But that's a tough situation, too. Intentionally walking Josh Donaldson to go up to Justin Smoke. Tough spot there. I think it's give or take. It's the game of baseball.
So my takeaway is, one, you're right. I think that Sonny Gray is not getting the proper chance to be successful in New York.
Yep.
And that's just one of those things. They're still a little hesitant after his postseason last year. It was his first big spot, really, in the postseason when you think about his career. Let the guy be the pitcher that he can be. Number 2, did you watch opening day, Josh Donaldson trying to throw a baseball from third base, which looked like the most uncomfortable thing in the history of the world? That was terrifying. I don't even know how to describe it. And then the third and final thing for me, listen, I refuse to panic about baseball until June.
Yeah.
I refuse to put any kind of serious worry into a baseball player or a team until June. I think that's when issues become real. A little concerning, the performance of the Yankees bullpen, though, in this opening series.
Well, considering how much potential and talent, we saw how good they were, especially down the stretch after the trade deadline. They made that great run in the playoffs to the ALCS to Game 7 against the Astros. You just kind of expected them to pick up right where they left off, and to see Dellin Betances struggle, to see David Robertson struggle, not a good sign early on. Hopefully this is just them getting the cobwebs off and getting comfortable. And again, that's the other thing too. And you're right, Yankee fans don't need to panic just yet. It's way too early. Disappointing too that they couldn't play today. I think you look at the forecast. Yes, I know the entire outfield is covered in snow.
Well, I think they said as of 11 a.m., or it was like 10:15, 10:30 a.m., it was 5 inches on the ground or something.
It's disappointing.
It's not going to happen. It's not worth it either.
It's not worth it, too. And you look at tomorrow's forecast, too. That worries me, too. 90% rain throughout the entire day. Hopefully that's just a hoax. Hopefully that's not real. Hopefully it's just a little bit of light rain, because that takes away from the home opener. You go to a Yankee home opener, you want that excitement. There was so much tension building. Everyone was so excited to get to the stadium, and everyone's pumped up. But I think you lose today, and tomorrow I think a lot of fans aren't going to be able to go to the game at 4 o'clock tomorrow. The rain may take a little bit of the atmosphere out of it. So I hope not. But at the same time, every year you look forward to get to Yankee opening day, and I hope it lives up to the hype.
I hope it works out for your sake. I like that you wore the snowflakes in the pocket square today.
I figured, you know what?
It makes sense, actually, finally. Okay, go ahead. Flash that off right there.
The last time, please, snow.
God, I swear,
last time.
If we see
better be the last time
we
see snow.
That's going to be it. All right, we've talked way too long about sports at levels above our pay grade. Let's take a break, Kevin. When we get back, we got postponements to get you caught up on as games around the state are being moved. We're also going to preview the spring season. Happy to be back in studio after spending time out on the FCX tour. It's Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network, and it continues next.
Yeah, Dad.
Kyle, I need you to update the financial statements.
I took care of that yesterday, Dad.
Mac, I need you to get those deals approved.
They're all done, Mr. Miller.
Jeff, I need you to order lunch for the meeting. They can't do a thing without me.
Right now, lease a 2017 Sentra S for only $97 a month.
I'm never going to retire.
At Galt, we always put you first. As your full-service home heating partner, we provide expert delivery, installation, and maintenance for all your heating needs with knowledgeable, friendly professionals that give you peace of mind 24/7. Galt Family Companies, you first since 1863. At Galt.
At Rings End, we say it's time to re-love your home. Time to refresh and reinvigorate the way you live. And whether you're redoing something big or small, remember the letters RE stand for Rings End. We're the new model in home remodeling.
Back on Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network, Frank Granito with Kevin Coleman looking ahead to the spring season, which kicked off this past weekend. A couple of big games from around the FCX. Let's start, Kevin. Boys lacrosse, the biggest team in all of Connecticut, the defending national champion, Darien Blue Wave. They go out of conference, out of state, to face perennial power Yorktown in New York. They pick up a 13-11 victory. It was 12-6 at one point in this game, Kevin, and I think we saw a little bit of the inexperience with a lot of new players on this roster show up as the Wave not quite able to close this one out the way we're used to seeing that. Remember in 2017, there were only 3 games that Darien did not win by 4 or more goals. So I think we saw a little of the youth there, but they still get the win. Streak now at 55 games. Your initial thoughts on the boys lacrosse in the FCX heading into the spring?
I think you look at Darien, a game like this against a Yorktown team that is such a historic record in boys lacrosse. I mean, for so many years, Yorktown's been known for boys lacrosse. I think it's smart for Darien to start off the season with really tough opponents. I think starting off with a nice confidence builder at home against Yorktown. They get Minikis, Logan McGovern, Jack Joyce. They get those boys involved, all combining for 11 goals and 18 points. Minikis had 6 goals and 4 assists, so he comes back right where he left off from last season. Tanner Strub, I think in the face-off circle, he's going to be crucial this season for the Darien Blue Wave. He's been so talented, comes in another year this season for the Blue Wave. But again, across the board, obviously, Darien, the heavy favorite. I'm looking forward to seeing how Ridgefield responds coming off the loss in the FCX to Darien.
And remember, too, now Ridgefield is going to be without Gatto for probably a month at least, maybe even a little bit longer into this season. Before we go into who else we're excited about, let's just stay on Darien for a second because I want to go with a thought here. I agree with you. Obviously, Darien is going to load up their schedule. We're going to see them Friday night when they host Torrey Pines, who's now number 7 in the nation out of California, playing very well to start the year, and that's a program that's had a lot of success, specifically the past few seasons. My big thing is I think Darien will win FCX without a doubt. I think they'll win states, that those streaks aren't in jeopardy. It's going to be, let's say Darien loses to Torrey Pines, or let's say Darien loses to St. Anthony's. You know, there's that random out-of-conference loss that might come at some point in the season. Is this a Darien team that's going to be okay finishing 22-1 FCX and state champions after, no other way to put it, this just ridiculous standard of excellence that has been set? It's unprecedented, and quite frankly, I don't know that we have ever seen a run like this. You're talking about a team coming off a national championship. They haven't lost in 2.5 years. This is getting ridiculous now.
It is ridiculous. It's
going to end at some point, and it's just going to be a matter of, is it going to be how do you look at this season? If you're sitting at that banquet for Darien, are you going to be the class that like, oh, well, we're the class that lost a game?
Right.
Like how?
Right.
I assume that's how tough they're going to be on themselves because that's the standard Coach Braymeyer set, but I mean, it's crazy that we're even talking about it that way.
It is crazy that we're even talking about this, and it's gotten to this point. 55 games. You're talking about 4 consecutive years now with state and conference championships. The list goes on. The stats go on. The record books go on. I think you look at this group, and that is the one question I think a lot of people have. If they do lose, if this winning streak ends, how will they handle it? And I think if there's Jeff Braymeyer is a type of coach that will say, boys, let's rally from this loss. If it's out of conference, if it's in conference, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think they're going to go undefeated in the conference. Out of conference, though, if they lose Friday night to Torrey Pines, yes, I think they will hang their heads and say, yes, we were the team that ended the streak and we had the one loss. But I think Coach Braemeier is the type of coach that says, guys, let's put that behind us. Let's move forward. And I still think they're going to take care of business, win Class L, and take care of FCX.
3 out-of-conference opponents remain on the schedule. Torrey Pines on Friday night, 6:30. That game will be on the HAN Network. Also be the first game ever under the lights for Darien Lacrosse. Manhasset on Saturday, April 14th. That game at Darien. And then on May 3rd, they host St. Anthony's. That game has been really good the past 2 years. So those are the 3 games out of conference you got to worry about. Outside of Darien, you were talking about Ridgefield before I cut you off. I'm sorry. Are they the biggest threat to the Blue Wave this season?
I'd like to think so, only because they bring back some key pieces from last year's team that made it to the FCAC final. You look across the board, I think Wilton's going to have a nice bounce back year. I think they have some strong players on their roster. What's New Canaan going to be like this year? That's the big question for me. I think we've all had a little bit of a question mark for New Canaan. They lose so much from that graduating class last year. There's going to be a lot of youth on that team as well. How are they going to handle themselves, the Rams, this season? I think Ridgefield, I'm going to go with Ridgefield. I think Ridgefield is the team that I think they can learn from last year's loss in the FCAC final. A great run they had in the FCACs, beating New Canaan. I think Ridgefield, I think the Tigers are going to be that team that can contest with the Blue Wave.
I think Ridgefield is going to be a team you don't want to see in the FCAC tournament because they're going to look a lot different than they did in the regular season without Gatto. Now, you're looking at a Tigers team I think could end up falling down to 6th or 7th in the standings before Greg gets back. It's going to help New Canaan, who I think gets pole vaulted into that 5 or 4 spot, but that might not be enough. And New Canaan's dealing with a lot of question marks in between the nets, which Darien, they've got a little bit of an issue over there, but they're going to be okay. New Canaan's got 4 kids right now, and they're not 100% sure who is going to be that guy to replace Drew Morris. And those are big shoes to fill in that crease. Wilton brings back a lot.
Yeah.
Greenwich loses a decent chunk on the back end, so defensively, how are they going to limit other teams' offenses? But you got Jack Veda and Matty Bogger up front. You're going to be able to match teams in shootouts if you want to step into real barn burners kind of thing. And I'm really excited about Staples. It's a program we continue talking about this time of year. They're trending in the right direction. They're doing a lot of the right things. Those captains say all the right things. We talked to them on the tour. They're a motivated group. I think Evan Zinn is going to be a candidate for Player of the Year. I think he could set some serious scoring records over there. And what I love about Zinn, obviously, as a sophomore, we remember him for having this heavy shot from outside in the box. He could let it rip, and it was tough to catch up with. He is such a big body now. He knows how to use it. He's going to look to dodge a lot more this year. He's a player who's going to attract a lot of double teams, and look for him to go over 40 assists on the season.
It's a good stat.
I think he's going to attract enough attention, Kev. He's going to be facilitating, running that offense more than we appreciate. That's a guy who's invested in the team. Over 40 assists for Evan Zinn. I think the Wreckers finished in the top 4 of the standings this year.
I agree with that. And obviously, you look at Darien, New Canaan, boys and girls lacrosse as a marquee game you're looking forward to in the spring. Staples and Greenwich, they've had some terrific games. If we look at last year, they had a terrific matchup at Greenwich High School. I'm looking forward to seeing the Wreckers and the Cardinals get back to the turf, not just in boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse as well.
And that's in both of the FCAC and state games last year. That they had really, really good ones in the FCAC quarters and in the state quarterfinals as well. But again, I think we're in agreement on the boys side of thing. Everyone is still chasing Darien. You're really in that fight for second right now and hoping that you catch them that one day that happens once every 3 years where they don't bring their A game.
And I think there's also one team that I think I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress from last year is Trumbull. I think Trumbull has something a little going on there. I think they have a little bit of swagger, a little bit of confidence. The Eagles and that boys lacrosse program. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in 2018 because, you look at last season, I thought they were a stronger team. But Trumbull is a team that I'm looking out for that could be a little bit of a dark horse this year a little bit.
A big thing for Staples here, too. They do not have to face Darien or New Canaan in the regular season. Remember that. All right. They'll take on Greenwich on the 17th. That game is at home from Staples. But yeah, no Greenwich, or excuse me, no Darien, no New Canaan for the Wreckers this season. Kevin and I got to take a break. We got other sports to get you ready for. Spring preview rolls on Nutmeg Sports next on the HAN Network.
Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
If you've ever thought about owning a motor coach or learning about what it's like to travel the open road in superior style and comfort, then contact Dave's RV Center in Danbury, Connecticut. Offering the best quality Class A motorhomes from Newmar, travel trailers and fifth wheel lines from Surveyor, and a toy hauler line from Work and Play. Choose from Newmar's Gas Line, Bay Star and Canyon Star, or from Newmar's Diesel Line, Ventana and Dutch Star. And with unparalleled service and maintenance, Dave's RV is committed to keeping you and your motor coach safely on the road and enjoying it to the fullest. Stop by their showroom, 2 Industrial Plaza Road, Danbury, Connecticut, or call 877-483-3866. If you've ever...
Back on the HAN Network, Frank Granito, Kevin Coleman. Looking ahead to the spring season, we talked about boys lacrosse. Obviously, Darien, the prohibitive favorite. Girls lacrosse, it will not be as wide a gap this season, Kevin, but the girls will certainly, the Blue Wave ladies will certainly be the early season favorites, winners of 6 consecutive FCX championships, 5 consecutive states. Who is the biggest challenge to the Blue Wave in girls lax?
I think it's got to be New Canaan again. Staples. Staples is a team that I think can surprise some people this year. They bring back a good amount, but again, that rivalry between Darien and New Canaan, not just for football, but for boys and girls lacrosse, is so entertaining. It's so much fun to watch, and I think those 2 teams, get up to that extra level for that type of game. And I think New Canaan has an opportunity this year to surprise some people, especially beating the Blue Wave if they want to this year. But again, Darien's just so loaded again. They bring back Chrissy Fiore, Katie Ramsey, those 2 so talented, great athletes. For New Canaan, I think you certainly have faith in them. They're a strong team. They bring back some key pieces. I'm sticking with the Rams, but again, Staples is the type of team that I think can raise some eyebrows this year in girls lacrosse.
The big thing for New Canaan, they have struggled getting over that hump of Darien. They've played in 6 FCX championship games in the past 10 years. They haven't won a conference title since 1993.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the winner on the other end of things has been your bitter rival, the Blue Wave. I'm going to go with Wilton as the top contender there. They faced against Darien in the FCX semis last year. They also took Darien on in the state championship game. Remember the state championship, 10-4 at the half. Warriors got it down to 12-10, the final being 13-10. A lot of players are back on that Warriors roster. I think Paisley Egan is going to make a big impact in the midfield. Ava Greco is back. Paige Brown in net is going to be huge. You've also got Bridget Wall there. Julia Bonist, of course, played a big role down the stretch. She had a lot of quality scoring to lead the way in the postseason. So I think that the Wilton Warriors, especially motivated off those 2 postseason losses to Darien, are really going to prove to be a big threat. My next bet for you, obviously, would have been Greenwich, but the big loss opening weekend to Fairfield Ludlow, 9-8. We talked a little bit about, all right, how do the Cardinals bounce back? You lose a couple of key players, but what do you do now to make sure you're ready to reload and compete with the top? Ludlow is a good team. I think Ludlow is absolutely 100% a playoff team, but that's a game Greenwich wants back. They probably shouldn't have lost.
You're absolutely right. That's a game that I do want back. But does a win like this for Ludlow kind of put them into the picture now? I know it's early. It was the first game of the season. But do you give them a shot at, not only making FCX, but going for a deep playoff run?
I don't know if I am fully sold on them making it to a championship game yet. I think, they've got the pieces in place and prove they can beat the top teams in this conference. Maybe they're an FCX semifinalist kind of team, but it is just one game. And while we're not panicking for Greenwich, let's not sell too high right now, or buy too high, I should say, on the Falcons. And obviously, they were only the 5th school in history to ever make it to the FCX championship, joining Greenwich, Wilton, New Canaan, and Darien. Can't sleep on the Ridgefield Tigers as long as Caroline Colonel, the future Lafayette product is on this roster. And I think the Ward Mustangs, who were just a few years removed from a state championship appearance, led by senior Libby McKenna, those are two programs that can cause some havoc in this conference as well.
You talk about a good matchup between Libby McKenna and Caroline Colonel. Whew. You got 2 3-sport athletes. It's funny, they play the same 3 sports.
Very familiar with each other.
Very familiar with each other. One going to Villanova, one going to Lafayette. Those 2 athletes have been terrific. You talk about that run last year that Caroline Colonel put up in the postseason for the Tigers. You got to give the Tigers certainly a lot of chances here in girls lacrosse because of her. And I think you got to give a lot of hope for the Mustangs too, with Libby McKenna on the turf as well.
For me, Kev, we look at baseball now. Staples will probably be the prohibitive favorite. I think they're ranked. They should be ranked #1 heading into the season. I'm a big believer in you win the championship. You deserve that #1 ranking by default heading into the year until someone knocks you off. The more I look at this whole thing, the way it breaks down, I could seriously see a clean sweep in the Big 4 sports by the Blue Wave. I think, first of all, Coach Mike Scott does such a great job with his Darien baseball program. They're very experienced. They only know getting to at least the Final Four. They have an FCX championship under their belt. It's an open league, as it always is. They've got depth pitching, which will be huge for them. I think baseball-wise, Darien could be a big problem team, and they win games in the FCX tournament. I really think that you could see them steal an FCX championship. And softball, the girls bring back a lot off last year's championship team. I just think if you can find a way to avoid St. Joe's in the bracket till the championship game, they've got a really good chance to make a run there and possibly repeat as champions. Could you imagine sweeping all 4 of those in one season? I
got to tell you, I really like that pick for baseball.
Yeah.
For Darien, I really like that pick because one of my favorite players to watch, not just in baseball, but I loved watching him in basketball, is Justin Jordan.
Yep.
He is so much fun to watch. Terrific athlete over at Darien High School. I think you look at him, in the left-handed batter's box, sitting there in center field. He's just a terrific athlete to watch. He's also got a good arm as well. He can come in from the bullpen. We saw last year him, having a couple of chances on the mound. I like Darien. The one team I want to see, what I think is going to have a little chip on their shoulder, is West Hill.
Yeah.
They want to come back and prove the conference wrong because I think they feel slighted after that early exit in the FCX. So I want to see how West Hill responds this year after having a 17-3 year. I want to see how the Vikings respond in 2018.
Of course, Wilton, the defending conference champions, they don't lose too much. I mean, you're going to miss Billy Black on the mound, but Wilton will be a very tough team. Ridgefield, if Alex Price is dealing on that day, that might be as close to a guaranteed win as we might see in the conference. And Staples, led by Chad Knight, I think he's going to be a guy who pushes for Player of the Year kind of honors, especially when you look at the numbers he had last season. Staples is going to be deep. Staples is always going to be good. Coach McFarland does a great job managing his roster. That's a tough place to play at. They're very good at home and another experienced group. But you're right. I like West Hill. They're a motivated bunch. And, another one of those teams where they're in a good window right now. They've had a lot of success in their careers. Trumbull with Ben Farrell. Yeah. That's a guy who also could really be pushing for a Player of the Year kind of nod. Someone who could, potentially go 5-0, 6-0 kind of numbers on the mound.
You also can't sleep on Danbury. How many times every year we always see Danbury, hang around. They always somehow find their way into the FCX postseason. And once they do, that's another team you do not want to see in the tournament because they are scary. If you got to play that one-game playoff, that Danbury is that team you do not want to play.
A lot of familiar faces on that Hatters roster as well. Kev, we are out of time for today, but a great job, my friend. I hope that the weather holds off. You get to go enjoy opening day tomorrow afternoon at Yankee Stadium. Always a special day, and it should be a lot of fun. Good job, man.
I just hope that baseball in general, not just professionally, but I hope we get some good baseball going here in the FCX. I know some of the fields are still going through a little bit of tough times due to the weather, but man, Mother Nature, come on, cooperate with us. Let's bring back some sunny weather here, some 60 degrees. Let's get it going. Come on.
Can you just hope for Michigan to win? One time,
no,
just be my friend.
Go Nova.
One time,
go Nova.
Just be my friend. Kevin Coleman, I'm Frank Granito. We'll see you tomorrow on the HAN Network. Go Blue.